Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back to another episode of the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I am here today with a very good dear friend of mine, Maura Lawrence, because I'm not used to calling her that because she's married. And she is a beautiful human. I just think of you as like talented singer. Musical theater is what I know, but stay-at-home mom, international expat now, which we're going to get deep into. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. We've been trying to do this for a minute. Maura is living in, we're going to get into all the things, but right now she is living in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And we grew up together in Kansas City in the United States. And this has been, what an incredible journey that you're on right now that I cannot wait for you to share with our audience.
It's been wild.
Who knew? Who knew?
I know. I never would have guessed. If you had asked me, 2 years ago, I've been like, no way. But here we are.
Nuts. So Maura and I went to the same high school, Shawnee Mission West, go Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings.
And you graduated in 2006, is that right? Yeah, 2 years before me. So I was 2008. I felt like 2006 and 2008, there were so many people that were friends in those two.
Yeah, there's something, but poor 2007, we kind of just jumped over them.
I'm still in touch with Chris Swearingen and, like all the things, like Eric was friends with a lot of people from 2006, Cassie Pettigrew,
still tight with her.
Lots of different things. And so, we all were in choir and musical theater and all the things together, and lots of big mutual group friends. And then time goes on, you graduated. How long after you graduated did you meet your husband?
Literally 2 weeks after I graduated.
She's like, Mama didn't waste any time.
Yeah. Well, he went to West, actually. He was in 2007. Did
he really?
Yeah, he knew who I was, but I didn't know who he was. So,
oh my God.
And then, I got a job at Bob Evans 2 weeks after I graduated, and he was working there, and things went from there.
That's amazing. Who knew?
I know.
What did he do in high school?
He was in orchestra and he did wrestling, but he's real quiet.
Okay. So he was in our wing because orchestra, band, choir, all that stuff we had like a whole wing of that in our school.
There's no way we didn't cross paths.
You had to have.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I know.
How crazy. Because I talk about that with my husband and I, we met salsa dancing, and we were both living in Las Vegas for so long, and there's only so many salsa events that happen all the time. Everybody kind of goes to the same thing, but my mind was on someone else. His mind was on work. And we're like, there's no way we didn't end up at the same events more than once and never saw each other. So that's just crazy that you guys had that same experience.
But then you kind of got to wonder, like, is it just like the universe putting you together when it's supposed to, right?
Timing. Oh, we 100% agree with that. Yeah. Like that is totally the reality of it. Cause we're like, if we would have met each other sooner, we wouldn't have been ready. We would have probably fucked it up.
Completely.
Cool. So then you got married. What year did you get married?
This was 2013.
Okay. And then you had your first kid
in 2017.
Okay. So you took some time.
Yeah. It took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of time to get pregnant, but we also took some time before then.
Yeah. Enjoyed your marriage, enjoyed your life. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. And then now you have 2 children.
Yes.
2 boys.
Yes.
just
Keegan,
the way I want to do it.
Two boys?
I don't want girls. Girls are dramatic.
I mean, there's a whole different handful, right?
Whole different thing.
Yeah.
We have a really good friend of ours who has a boy and she's pregnant now with 2 girls. Jade.
Okay, I was gonna say, of ours. Okay, I thought you meant you and your husband.
No,
so
no.
Wait,
You're like,
yeah,
wait,
Jade.
yeah.
Yes.
And God bless.
I
2
know.
girls at the same time.
I know.
I'm like, I mean, she's gonna handle it. She's badass, but holy crap. I'm like, girls, man.
It's going to be wild, but like, at least they have a built-in like cohort in themselves. So maybe like some of that craziness will go just between the 2 of them.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's true. So anyway, so then you have, I'm kind of grazing through the life a little bit, but stop me if there's anything that's needs to be said. You have 2 sons now. How old are they?
So Aiden is 5 and Keegan turns 3 on Sunday.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How exciting. And you just said a year ago is when you announced, you probably guys already were figuring this out beforehand, that you were moving from Midwest Kansas in the United States to Europe.
Yeah.
And this was because of your husband's job.
Yes. Yeah.
So explain that, how all that kind of went down.
Oh boy. And it's even more of a roller coaster than that, because initially there was talk of a job in Australia through his company in Kansas. Yes. And he got offered the position and we were gearing up. We were looking at like places we were going to move to Australia, which is crazy in itself.
Oh my God.
And then there was a local position inside his same company that was kind of like a dream path for him. And he's like, I'm going to go for that. And he did. And unfortunately, it was given to somebody else. But as they're telling him that this position is offered to this other person, they said, but how would you feel about being a CFO in the Netherlands? And so he comes to tell me that. And he's like, you need to sit down. I'm just like,
well, I think from Australia, I mean, that's a little bit easier to swallow, but
yes. No, so, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we're staying in Kansas now. And, and then here comes this whole other country. And I don't know, after talking about Australia, somehow the Netherlands actually seemed less crazy because Australia is so far. Yeah. And now it's like, well, we could actually come home easier. And just, I don't know, things about it seemed a little bit more doable. So I was surprised how quickly I was like, sure. Yeah.
Why would we not do this?
Yeah. And it's like once in a lifetime, right?
I mean, that's the thing. And so I think, that's really why I wanted to talk to you, is not just, as an opportunity to catch up and all these things, but I felt like this was a very good conversation to share with my audience, because how many people would actually say yes to that? And I don't want to say it like that. I feel like I know a lot of people in my life that would say yes to that. But I feel like they're especially, and again, there's no stereotype on Kansas, but we all know kind of how we all grow up, and everybody wants to kind of stay close to home. And there's this like big family thing. And, I have, a lot of people in my life right now that are kind of trying to figure out where to move. And it's just, there's this stigma, I feel, a little bit more in the Midwest than if you're like moving from California, Vegas, New York, some of those places,
Absolutely.
And so how many people would actually like take the opportunity to say, I'm going to do this with 2 kids. We're going to give this opportunity to our family. It's going to change our life, and look at it in that way, instead of all the ways I think they look at it on the glass half empty situation, where it's like, this is going to be so hard. We're not going to have a community. Like what about our family? I mean, I don't know. There's so many. Do you see what I'm getting at here?
Oh, completely. Yeah. And honestly, I did feel a lot of those things. We were so blessed, are still so blessed with a wonderful community in Kansas that I really struggled with the thought of leaving them.
Right.
And while I was committed early, it wasn't without, trepidation and doubts, And there is, for sure, there's this other side of the coin where there are so many in the Midwest that would never even think about leaving the state that they were.
Well, that's it. I mean, even just moving somewhere else in the United States, it takes them a minute to like even grasp the concept. So moving to Europe or Australia or anything like that, it's like, well, that's not happening. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah. like maybe you have a pipe dream where it's like, God, I'd love to go live in this country, but you don't do it.
Well, right. I mean, even to go on vacation, I have so many people that they're like, oh yeah, we wanted to go there for our honeymoon. Still, 10 years later, they still haven't been.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's holding you back? And I think there's this, again, that's why it kind of ties into this perfectionism, or also just this kind of like fear of judgment. Like, what will my family say?
Yeah.
I'm going to move to Europe. Like the judgment,
Right.
the selfishness of me to take my kids away from their grandparents.
Right. Am I disappointing people? Am I gonna, like, whose heart am I gonna break?
Totally. So how did you work through that? And I mean, you said you have a very supportive community and family system, but where was there some feelings you had to work through there with some people?
We were really lucky in
Okay,
terms of the support behind us,
Yeah.
and I know that for a lot of people in my life, that wouldn't be the case. So I feel super blessed for that.
So you were expecting some pushback a little.
I really didn't know, because I'd
Okay.
never even considered the possibility of this.
Right.
I was unsure how my parents would feel about it. I'm one of 3 kids, and my brother passed away, God, 7 years ago now. And so there was a deep guilt to like take another child away. And I really wondered, how they would feel about it. But my dad was a little in denial. I think up until like the last month, I don't think he believed it was going to happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But eventually,
we'll believe it when we see it, right?
Right. He's like, well, this isn't a thing that happens, because the Midwest mentality, nobody moves away to another country. But then he was behind us.
Amazing. And have they come to visit?
No, I've had my sister has come to visit, and Aaron's brother has, and his parents are coming next month. My parents are not the most likely to go and travel around the world or do real wild things at this point in their life. So I'm unsure whether that will happen or not. I really hope it does.
Well, right. Because what an amazing opportunity when you have a friend or a family member that moves to another country or studies abroad. You're like, great, now I have a place to go visit and stay.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I've realized in living here that there is a huge difference between going and visiting a place, taking a week or 2 there and living there. And that can really carry over to visiting someone who lives there, because you get that little peek into the other side of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I completely agree with that. So it's been how long now that you've officially been a resident of the Netherlands?
Yeah. It's almost 10 months, or boy, maybe 10 months was like yesterday. I don't know what the date is, but it was right around now is 10 months.
Okay.
And it's incredible how much has happened in 10 months in mindset alone, nevertheless, like logistically.
So that's what I love the most about traveling. Because, my audience and my family and everyone in my life knows that my husband and I are international global citizens, and we just want to be everywhere and do all the things. And we just got back from spending 2 months in Europe, which it was my deepest regret to not be able to fit in coming to visit you guys. But then when you told me you're going to be there for a little bit longer, I was like, okay, well, we're coming back every year. Don't even worry about it. We'll be there. We'll fit it in. I didn't want to rush it. I felt like we would only be able, and then you had family coming, and I didn't want it to be a thing, but we're stoked to come see. We've never been to Amsterdam, all the things, like it's on the list. But the amount of mental growth and just stepping outside of yourself and realizing how big and small the world is at the same time happens so much faster when you experience it. And I think that's a big reason why my brother and I were so quick to be like, we got to get out of Kansas, because as much as Kansas was an amazing place to grow up, great, loved our school systems, loved our whole thing, family aspect, loved the house we grew up in, we knew we were outgrowing the box very quickly, and we wanted to keep going and growing and doing things in our careers and in our lives and meet people internationally that we were not meeting there. Yeah. And what an incredible opportunity for your kids
Oh my God. Yeah, that's the greatest part of the whole thing is just I know
talk to me about that a little.
there's a good chance that Keegan for sure, and maybe Aiden won't remember a whole lot of it.
Okay.
I hope that towards the end of things, they'll start to make some core memories that'll stick with them. But I know that regardless of how many memories they take away from this, who they are and how they're built is being affected by their time here and what they're being exposed to. And I think it's going to change who they are for the rest of their lives. And I'm so excited that they get that kind of, I mean, Aiden is in an international school right now with students from all over the world, and his classes, it's wild. It's
wild.
Yeah, there's just there's only, I don't think there's anybody in his current class this year that's from the United States. There are English speakers. It is taught in English, so that helps a lot, but there's exposure to so many different cultures and
right, because the international language of the Netherlands is Dutch, right? So you have Dutch, but then you have a lot of English speakers, obviously.
Right. Well, the locals almost all speak English, which has been really convenient for us. But there's also, I believe that the Netherlands has the largest expat community in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And I mean, having been here and immersed into that community, and that we live just outside of Amsterdam in Haarlem. Like my husband still commutes into the city, but technically we live just outside. And even just in Haarlem, there is a huge, amazing network of expats, and it's become already 10 months in, it's a family here for us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I know Portugal is really big for expats as well. And also in, remote, independent business owners, things like that. But that's really cool. That makes it so much easier.
For sure. And honestly, I was really terrified coming into this about there's so much pressure to meet people. One, because your mental health is better if you've got a community.
Amen.
And if emergencies
say that louder for people in the back.
I mean seriously, you need that community.
Yeah, you do.
And also if emergencies happen, you need someone there. And our kids need to have social interactions. They're going to be in school a little bit, but we got to be able to provide them something. And so as a stay-at-home mom, this was my job. My job was to get out there and meet the people and build the community. Wow. And I was terrified.
For sure. I mean, absolutely. That's the natural things that are terrifying. Did you feel, what about you? Because I know you're pretty meticulous. We definitely have talked about, identifying as perfectionists, especially in high school. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
But what do you feel? I mean, already being a mom, you don't want to screw up your kid. You want to do the best for them.
Yeah.
But what do you feel was the scariest part about putting yourself out there in a new community?
Well, I feel it's such a unique situation. Even in the terms of all expats coming from the Midwest, where we're just kind of sheltered in our little box.
Yeah.
And I, leaving Kansas and going into this, international community that's filled with people who are from so many different places globally. I felt so simple. I felt my experience is small. My where I come from is so less exciting and invigorating. And then you meet all these people who have lived in multiple places, have, exorbitant careers and have done so much. And I just felt what am I bringing to the table? And that was hard. I was afraid that then how am I enough to stand with these people? And it was a really eye-opening experience to find that, you know what, I am enough. I have had experiences and I do bring so much to the table. And that's what's beautiful about expat community is that we're all from varying levels of size of town and craziness of background, but we all bring a story that's valuable.
And you're all doing exactly the same thing. You're taking yourself out of your hometown and putting yourself into a new space. And that space happens to be shared by all of you.
Right.
Wow. Let's just reflect on that for a second. Just feeling like you're not enough and what am I bringing to the table? Because your perception of where you came from isn't maybe as exciting as where you feel someone else came from.
Right.
And gosh, isn't that just like a feeling that is common among just people in general, just even starting a new school, even in a different state, let alone a different country. But you realized after you were in it how unique you guys actually were.
Yeah.
Because you are unique. Like we can say that and know that, but then you can be like, yeah, whatever. It's like getting a compliment and you're like, yeah, but I have to believe it. And so like all of a sudden the reality was staring you in the face and going like, no, look. And then like, were there some instances that you're just like, oh man, like, no, like we belong here.
It's funny. It's just, I don't know when it happened. It wasn't like a moment where I had a click go off. It was just, everything just became easier. And all of a sudden I looked up and I thought, you know what? I'm in this group of people who are from all of these different places and have done all these different things. And this isn't scary because I am bringing something. And I no longer feel like, as I did at the very beginning when I was meeting them, that I have to try and present a certain front so that I can, try to come across as being enough to stand here. I don't have to do that.
No, you are. Yeah. You being there is enough. And no one else is from Kansas. Like,
right.
Regardless of what you believe that to be. I mean, I tell people we're from Kansas all the time. You know what I mean? Like, at least in the United States. I mean, after a certain point, you live in so many different places and people are like, well, where are you from? It's like, well, what part of my life?
Right. No, completely.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. And my husband and I both have birth countries and we have hometowns.
Yeah.
And then we have places that we've lived for a long period of time. So that's like really hard. It's like, I don't really know what to tell you. It depends on what it is we're talking about that's going to be relevant to you. So, so then you start to realize just how much everyone is really kind of the same.
Yeah. And that's the other beauty of expat life is that you immediately have a common ground.
Yeah,
you are all pulled out of, your hometown,
your comfort zone,
this place. Yeah. And so like, we all understand each other in a very unique and special way. And we also like recognize each other's struggles. And that was what was so comforting to find this community is that they saw me and they saw what I was going through because they've lived it. And that was such a special thing to have.
What an amazing thing to feel like. Isn't that what we're all searching for? Is we just want to be seen.
Totally. And I feel like it's
and understood.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I feel, born and raised in Kansas, I stayed, was like 30 minutes from where I was born my whole life. And I'm surrounded by people. I've been lucky enough to have people that I've been friends with for over 2 decades still in my life. And there is a incredible bond that comes with that, with growing up together. But there's another side of the coin here with sharing this very unique experience of these people, and that I'm able to build a similar bond to the 2 decades worth of friendship that I've got over here. And they both carry a lot of weight to them in ways that I didn't expect.
I love that perspective. Yeah, that's something that I don't actually really think about, because in our dance community, and then just the fact that we travel a lot, we meet so many different people. And you quickly bond with certain people based on similarities or being in similar situations. And then it's like, oh my gosh, only you could understand this.
Right.
But you're right. Like to then put that side by side with people that you've known for over 20 years, that you've built these long, deep, foundational relationships with. I think that is such a cool perspective to show people that it's not just about the time.
Yeah.
It's about the quality of what it is that you're doing together.
Absolutely.
that can build that deep relationship faster. And we forget that, or a lot of people don't know that that's possible because they've never done it.
Because maybe you don't have to, because that's what made coming here so scary, is that in Kansas, since I was there my whole life, I was able to form friendships in like really easy, organic ways, in school, in jobs, in, the swing community, like
dancing.
It was just really easy because we had these, shared experiences in a different kind of way. But so then coming out here, I never really had to meet somebody from zero. Well, I mean, sure, I met individual people, but I never had to form a whole community from zero.
Right.
Since going to school as a child. And so I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to it felt like dating. It felt like, oh my God, is it too soon to ask them to get together? What do I do? It was scary.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's crazy. But I feel like it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it is.
I think that's probably right. Yeah. And I feel like, even just starting this school year for my son, we just started last week, and having him start in January felt so much scarier because there was all this pressure. This is my easiest way to meet people is through the parents in these classes. And I've got to find a connection.
Right.
And, but I'm really scared because I don't know how to do it. And so I had all of these feelings going through, and now coming and meeting these new parents that are showing up in this class, it just feels like, it feels so much more attainable. And now it's almost exciting and fun as opposed to terrifying.
Right. And anxiety driven. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. I am like over the moon for you. Like even in the short, it hasn't even been a year. And the amount of like the gift that you've been given already through this experience has been so beautiful. I want to get into the fun stuff. What are you eating?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm also very vocal about the fact that the food in the United States is not the vibe for me at all. I was born in France. That's where I belong. And when we go back, I ate like my heart's content for 2 months while we were there. And like, that will be where our life goes, is we will be split 50-50 between the US and Europe. We will have properties in both places, and our kids will be international. We can't see it any other way. Like I feel trapped if I can't do that. And luckily for me, we have, like, that's what's so cool about your experience and what you're able to do, is that for me, I have citizenship. My husband will get citizenship after being married to me for another 4 years. And my kids will have dual citizenship based on whatever we decide to register them in. So we can move around freely and do what we want with our American and our EU passports. That gives us access to so many countries, because EU gives you access to everything.
Oh, totally.
And by doing that, and then of course, on top of that, between the two of us, we speak 4 languages. No big deal. He carries it for us. He speaks 4, I speak 2. So like,
hey, don't undervalue those 2 though.
Yeah, no, for real. But he carries us. But to be able to do that, those are blessings that my parents gave to me, and his parents gave to him, that now we can give. So it generationally, we're able to carry that on and then grow it and make it bigger. But with what you're doing, whether people study abroad or like a job transfers you, things like that, because he's there on a work visa, basically. You guys are there as a work situation, right? And so the idea is that now your kids coming from Kansas will be able to actually like understand, if they want to have citizenship in another country, how to attain that. Like that is now a reality for them in the future. If they decide that they want to live in another, you're probably like, oh my gosh, we all go back to Kansas. Like, don't leave me. But, but the idea is,
leave me. I'll go visit you.
Well, that's it. Exactly. Yeah. But like, I think there's something so beautiful about what you're doing. You're putting a glitch in the matrix of your generation right now. Yeah. I don't know if you've thought about it that way.
No, not at all.
It could have continued where you guys just raise your kids in Kansas, and then they raise their kids in Kansas, and then and then maybe they go travel abroad, because I know you had done some travels, and you had been to Europe a couple times and done a couple things there for fun. But now all of a sudden you're living there and realizing, like you said, living there and going there for 2 weeks, 2 totally different things. And now you're like, wow, this is easier than I thought. Yeah. Or, oh, everyone here speaks English, so I can acclimate easier. Or now I have friends that, like, if my sons want to move there in the future, they have a community that they've built. Like there's all of this like groundwork you're laying.
Yeah. And they're kind of building their own community too, because they're
Right.
making friends here. And
Right.
I think that we've been lucky that the friends that they're making are also the friends that we're making, like the parents and children kind of co-align. And there's been talk, I mean, it's early and you never know how life will play out, but there's talk about, when you're in an expat community, that there is a very high likelihood that we're all going to be spread out at some point. We're all
Sure.
going to move on to the next adventure or go back
Totally.
home.
This is a moment in time.
Right. But we've kind of latched onto each other. And there's some big talk about like, we're getting together every year. We're gonna see each other. And then if that's the case, that means that there's a potential for these kids to keep seeing each other and that they have then connections around the world from their time here, their own connections.
When I tell you that is what allows us to challenge society and do more in our life and live a lifestyle that a lot of people don't understand, is because we have so many family, friends, community, dance people, work people spread out all over the globe. So people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, when you're here, just come visit and stay with me. Like, we don't pay to go anywhere because it's either work related or it's family or whatever. And it's not even about the money. It's just about the experience.
Oh, completely.
But
it changes it.
It changes it. But to have that local experience that you can go and you're not just staying at a hotel everywhere, or more reason to go visit somewhere when you say, oh, I've been trying to get there for so long. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but 2 for 1, I get to go visit the place and I get to go see a good friend.
Yes.
Yeah, you're literally like, you're changing up the rhythm right now of how your kids and grandkids and great grandkids are going to move around the world.
Gosh, I hope so. I really do, because
What a beautiful space.
now that I know, you never would have known if we hadn't left Kansas to do this, even if this is all we do, if we just do the 3 years of his contract and we go right back, our minds have been open to that there is so much more. And now that you see that, you can't unsee it. Like,
you can't unsee it. Oh my God. I love that you said that. You just can't unsee it. It's so true. Like, once you've opened Pandora's box, there's no closing it.
No. And you're craving so much more from the world and from life, because you know that there's all this out there that you don't know. And how can I leave this earth and not know as much as I can possibly know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you know how many conversations I have with people where I just want, this is exactly why we're having this conversation, because like it's so hard for me to tangibly give them this experience and say, you don't know what you're missing. How do I explain to you what it means to go visit this place, or to go eat this food, or to go live here, or be out of your comfort zone, or try to make a new friend or whatever? I just can't. And once you do that and you realize how fearless you are and how wonderful it feels, what do they say? Everything worth it is on the other side of your comfort zone. Once you get there, you start to live on the other side of your comfort zone, because that's just where the good part of life happens.
Yeah. And then you realize it's all actually attainable. I mean, we were very lucky. Yes. Like, we got to, because of Erin's job, we got a lot of assistance getting here. And sometimes getting where you want to go can be really complicated.
Yes.
But once you get there, you realize, there's a whole lot in life that's way more possible than you ever thought it could be.
That's it.
Yeah.
When you just learn from books or media, or what, your Aunt Sally's friend told you about her experience, everything becomes a little bit jaded, and through a second, like a telephone situation. Yeah. Our experiences are completely unique. My husband and I, when people tell us experiences, I'm like, oh, we didn't experience that at all. It was not that hard. You know what I mean? And so I love to share our experiences, because I'm like, wow, it was way easier than that. Like, everything that they're telling you over here, like that, it doesn't have to be like that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like you said, you were able to get some help. But like, why can't someone just apply for a company or work in a job that allows them to have, like, when you apply for a job, like, are there opportunities to move abroad? Like,
it's an easy question.
It's an easy question. And if that's something that you're interested in, or something that you're possibly seeking, that should be one of the reasons that you take the job.
Yeah. And, I don't want to oversimplify like some struggles that people go through when they decide this, and all of the work that goes into it. It's just more that it can be done.
It's
and
attainable.
When you start making the choices, it gets you there.
Well, right. I mean, here's the thing. Everything is difficult, but worth it. You know what I mean? Everything that is worth it is difficult at some point.
Yes,
I mean, I haven't gone through this journey yet. Fingers crossed that everything goes according to plan, but you have 2 children. Pregnancy, I mean, we haven't been that much in contact, but I saw some things at the beginning of one of your son's life that was very difficult.
Yep, it was tough.
You've had a lot of highs and lows of parenting, and none of that is easy. But look what you got out of it. 2 amazing kids. You wouldn't, and people don't even bat an eye at becoming a parent. People they question me when I say I didn't want to be a parent for a while. Oh, why? Why would you not want to do that? And I'm thinking, look how hard it is.
It is,
like,
though.
Are you kidding me? But you but they think, oh, well, everybody does it, right? It's so normal to become a parent, but it's not normal to move overseas. And I think that's 10 times easier than being a parent.
Right. And it's also not permanent. Like, you have a kid,
well, that's true.
18 years, but so you could go and live somewhere for 2 years. And if you don't like it, you go back home.
That's it. It's not, if you don't like it, it's not permanent. Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah. You become a parent, you're a parent for the rest of your life.
Right.
Whatever happens to that kid, that's your responsibility. Or you're going to feel some sort of way if something bad happens. But
and you've got control over, where you move, how you move, what you do when you move. You've got control. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not have control over parenting. They've got control over you, and you're along for the ride.
Beautiful way to say it. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the thing. So yes, there's struggles. Yes, it's hard. We're not over here painting a picture that it's easy. But when I tell you the alternative to living, for us at least, once you've had your eyes opened. I mean, when we were in elementary school, middle school, high school, all of our friends went to summer camp. My family went to France because that's where my grandparents were. We went to go visit our grandparents. They paid for our trips. They wanted to see us. And then every other year they would come to the United States and come to Kansas to see us. So like, we didn't think of that as like, obviously we were very blessed, and our parents made sure that we knew that this was a great opportunity for us. But we were like, we're just going to visit our grandparents. That's where they live.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was very normalized for us, in which case it didn't feel difficult to achieve, just like what you were saying.
Yeah. And that's, I feel like I'm getting that with our boys now, is that sometimes it almost makes me worry that this is so normal for them. They have no idea that they're living in an international country. Like, this is just life. This is my school. These are my friends. This is what I do on the weekend. I go to the beach. This is what we do. And it's completely lost on them, this magic that is being gifted to them.
Right. And because they're so young, but I will say, like, our parents made sure that we understood that we were grateful, and that my grandparents were paying for our flights, that they were very expensive, but they were gifting them to, like, it was very, there was an overlaying message of gratitude that we needed to have. And that's just the way we were raised. Again, that's kind of that Midwest values. Sure. So I know you and, your husband are going to instill that in your kids as well. Yeah. But I also don't underestimate the blessing that it is a little bit normal for them to be living this life, because you don't want them to feel like they can't dream big and it can't come true. Yeah. Like this normalization of, we go home to Kansas and then we come and live in the Netherlands, and then we do this and then we do that. And on the weekends we go to Paris, and that is a beautiful, normal thing to normalize. Be grateful for it. My husband and I count our blessings every day that we're able to do that. But that doesn't mean that we want to, COVID was a huge thing for everyone, but, specifically when we were not able to travel, that made us appreciate travel even more.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want it to not be normalized that we can't do that.
Right.
Because then we have to explain to people why we do the things that we do. You're just going to go to Europe for 2 months? Why? How are you able to do that? It's like, I don't understand why I have to explain myself.
I don't understand the question. Why?
I don't understand the question. You haven't taken a vacation in 3 years? Why? How are you not burnt out? How are you not
oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
I can't imagine.
These people who ask me questions about my life that is so bizarre and extraordinary, I look at their life and I'm thinking, how do you wake up every single day and go to the same job and not love what you do?
Sure.
Like, how do you do that? And there's no judgment there, but it's like, that for me seems way harder than what I'm doing.
Right.
And it's all in perspective.
It's completely what I was going to say. It's a total mindset.
Right. Right. Based on how you decide to live your life. And so I just cannot wait to see the journey that your boys are on. I mean, also, honestly, we talk about the kids because, you know, they're the future and they get a chance to like really like be a sponge and soak all this up at a young age.
Right.
But like, what a beautiful moment, you know, for you in your 30s to you and your husband to rediscover each other, you know, in this way.
Right.
And rediscover yourself.
Right. Completely. Like it's seeing yourself in a whole different light. It's seeing what your life can be in a different light. It's giving you a hunger that you didn't realize could be there, you know? And it's, we went into this because of this incredible community that we have back home. I went into this like, okay, I'm on board. However, we are going back to Kansas at the end of 3 years, 2.5, we can do it. I'm getting back there. And I was set on it. And it was, you know, a month after we had met people and kind of started to get settled, like, you know, maybe it's longer than 3 years. Maybe it's somewhere else next. And it's
I was going to ask, did you
possible.
change that timeline? Like, that's the thing. Like now all of a sudden you get so set on one thing and then like your environment softens you and makes you feel comfortable and like, oh my God, wait, now I have a life here. I don't want to leave.
Yes. Yes. It's the thought of, when I think about it, I think about when it's going to be the last time we have a bike culture here. We bike everywhere we go. And like, I cannot imagine it being the last time that I get to bike just as my general transportation. I can't, imagine like not having the opportunity just to go to the beach, 15-minute bike ride down the road. Like,
right.
These little,
because those of you who don't know where Kansas is, if you're listening to this, we grew up with 0 beaches.
Nothing.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that's the thing, is that like, I think I was just talking to someone else about this the other day, about changing old belief systems that no longer serve you. Yeah. That when you get so stuck in a certain way, or something that's been working for you for so long, we don't want to be that person that just is wishy-washy and doesn't follow through and doesn't stick with an idea.
Right on.
But there's something to be said about new information, new experiences, new environments coming into play, and your belief systems changing to serve the new you.
Sure.
And
I think it's really one thing that I've learned here is that like nothing is permanent. That like everything, every plan, every, desire in life, everything can change. And, I spent my whole life thinking I knew this is where I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is how it's going to look, because it was what made sense for the future to be. And now it's just like, things can change and you can let them change, and that's okay.
Yeah. So you had all these plans and like all this, like, that's kind of the Kansas mindset is like, we plan our life and then 40 years later, you know what I'm saying? You like kind of plan to retirement.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden you have like 50,000 more questions about life. Yes. like how has that shifted your perspective on how to live the next 5, 10, 20 years of your life?
Well, it's a little terrifying because choice is scary. Like, a
lot of unknown.
Yes, the unknown. Absolutely. And that's the thing, like, it's the difference between, the Midwest and here is that the Midwest is comfortable and it's easy and it's a little bit boring. But like, you know where you stand, but then you have the sense of adventure and possibility and openness, but, scariness also, out here. And I think that like the idea of what's next is a little bit scary, a lot exciting, and totally unknown. We truly could not tell you right now how long we will be here or where we're going to be next. Because
you could end up getting transferred to another country. You could go back to Kansas for a year or two and then maybe come back. Like there's like all of those things are real possibilities. And why would you not at least consider them?
Completely. And there's a possibility that we may seek out, you know, his company has multiple international locations. Do we go somewhere else? Do we pop back to Kansas and then he opens up the door to other? I mean, who knows? Or, you know, do we just live somewhere else in the US? And it's, you know, it's not impossible that we end up back in Kansas because there are things that pull us there. It's just,
well, and even if you're there for like a year or two or something like that, totally. Before you moved to Europe, did you even consider the possibility of moving to another state within the country?
I mean, just vaguely, like we talked about it. We've got some family on the East Coast that we considered, you know, what if we moved out there with them? But I think up until we left Kansas and we saw that we could do this, because it all seems kind of impossible when you're sitting in the place you've lived your whole life.
Right.
And then you see that it's possible and it's wonderful. Then you're really thinking, what, you know, and then also you realize when you see how much you've been missing, you know, how much more is there for me to learn and experience and love?
Oh my God. Tell me about it. I feel like there's not enough hours in the day, not enough years in my life to see everything I want to see.
I know.
I'm like,
it does make me wish like I had from birth been doing like a year or two in all these different countries because I want to live everywhere and there's not the time.
There's not the time. I hear you. I feel the same way. I already had a lot of advantage growing up traveling, but every time we would go to Europe, we would go to France to visit family. And you weren't going to run to Europe, you know, run to France to see your grandparents after they paid for your flight and be like, okay, cool. I'm going to just pop over to Belgium and then I'm going to go down to Italy and then I'm going to like, they want to see you. So it wasn't until that's why being in Europe for 2 months and doing my honeymoon and doing all of that with the person I married was so crucial for me. Cause I was like, this is my time. This is what, and I get to finally do and see all the places I've wanted to see. And I wish I would have done that sooner in my 20s. And that's even me saying that. But again, timing is everything. And so it was meant to be when it was meant to be. And now I'm just, again, the hunger to keep that journey going is very real and very alive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's once you realize what's possible, like, then you don't want to stop. And that's what I try to tell people back home. Because as we said earlier, like most of the people in the Midwest cannot relate to this because they haven't lived other places. And sometimes they haven't even traveled other places. And so it's a really hard thing to convey when you haven't had the experience. But I want these people that I love to know, like, hey, get out there. It's possible.
That's it. Absolutely. So how has your conversation with friends and family back home changed after being in this new space for 10 months?
That's an interesting question. You know, it totally depends on who I'm talking to and how much experience they've had and how open they are to the world. I think that there's definitely, it seems like, I don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but it seems like there's been a hunger from the people that we love to hear about. What is this like? What are you experiencing? Like, let me.
Yeah, like you're doing it. Tell us what it is. Like, does it feel safe? Can I do it? Kind of thing.
Yes. Well, and there's been, particularly with our best friends, like there's been some real gentle pushing to come on, get out, come out here, come do this. Not just, come stay with us. Absolutely. Move out here, live this life with us, see what's possible. But, you know, it is a complicated thing to decide to do, especially if you aren't given a path like we were.
For sure. I mean, you guys definitely, the decision was made easier because of the setup that you had with the job and the support from that, you know, but again, there's lots of jobs that have, everything is so international now. Right. So if you're really seeking that type of journey and not trying to do it on your own, like we're doing, because we don't work for other people. So we have our own businesses, which means that we have to connect with the right people, or we just family or just on our own, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
then there are ways for you to just like, okay, let me find a job in the field that I studied or the thing that I like to do. And let me see if they have an international, office. That's a very real possibility for many, many, many people. And I think it's just about what I tell people all the time is doing your own research.
Right.
Like research, and don't just do what society says. Well, this is your job and this is what you're going to do until you retire and blah, blah. It's like, don't just follow the norm, because then you're going to have the normal life, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's so much more that you could be experiencing if you just Googled something, if you just looked, if you just asked questions and got curious.
Right. And recognize that, there will be a leap. Like no matter how much help you're getting or what kind of path you're taking, there's going to be a leap involved, and be willing to lean in and just see what happens.
Lean in and see what happens. That's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I literally could talk to you about this for hours. You still didn't tell me what you were eating. What is your favorite?
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing that you're eating right now that you're like, wow, I wish we had this in the United States?
Okay. Well, I hope that there's no Dutchies that listen to this. It's of all the wonderful things that I've been experiencing out here. And when I travel, I'm looking for food. Like this is what I'm in for. The Netherlands is not my favorite food environment.
Okay.
There is like some wonderful cheese here, and they're real into like breads and cheese and a lot of fried food.
Interesting.
But, like they're one of the big food items they have here, which actually sounds kind of Midwest if you ask me, but it's called bitterballen, and it's like a fried ball of like meat and gravy.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't do a lot of fried food, but that's interesting because that doesn't feel very European. Actually, a little German. I feel like maybe Germans fry a lot of things. They have a lot of sausages, things like that.
Yeah. And we're right next to Germany.
We're right next to Germany.
It's definitely not French food. For sure not French food.
Yeah. French, Italian. Oh my God. Switzerland. We had some amazing food. We were just eating our way through Europe is what was happening.
But we are close to all those things, which has been wonderful. And because you're already international, you have so many opportunities for restaurants in Amsterdam that are different, nationalities and things like that. So you can but when you're looking for traditional Dutch food,
I see. I love your honesty though, because that's what it's about. It needs to be like, and you're just a hop, skip, and a jump to so many other places. It's just like when we go, especially when we live in Kansas, where we lived, it's very close to the Missouri border. So you're just kind of like, ping ponging between the two. We were driving around Europe and everyone's, how did you hit 6 or 7 countries? I'm like, because everything's so close.
Right.
Like I'm sitting here driving from California to Vegas, and it's a 4 to 5 hour drive. And that's literally half of France.
Right.
Like, the entire country. So I could easily pop in and out in 2 to 3 hours of multiple countries and have zero issue. You know what I mean? And so that makes
we're taking a road trip to Germany next month. We're just going to do a weekend. It's not even a long weekend. It's 2 days, and we're going to go.
It. Exactly. And you could just pop in and out and and it's totally worth your time to do so. So yeah, that's the thing, is that yes, you moved to the Netherlands, but my gosh, there's so many places now that you get to explore because everything's so close.
Yes. And there's definitely this fire under us to make the most of that, because we don't know if it's just the 3 years, we only have so much time, and we've got, in the next 6 months, we have 9 trips planned. So we're doing it.
She said, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it real big. I love that. What a way to go from 0 to 100 and really take advantage of the opportunity that you did. Don't forget that. Like, it's not like, oh, they're so lucky, this dropped into their lap. Yeah, maybe Erin got presented with this opportunity, but you guys took the steps to make this happen. And don't tell me that this didn't just pop out of nowhere without there being some sort of like manifestation of like even the subconscious secret desire of like, what if we moved somewhere else? You guys said you visited Europe, you loved it, so like I'm sure that there was this like subconscious like, God, what a cool journey that would be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, totally
So,
possible. We went to Ireland with our best friends,
yeah,
and like ever since we went there, the four of us talk about like, let's go live in Galway. So, I mean, maybe that was the start of it all.
I mean, that's the thing. It just takes one moment to change the whole course of what you decide you want for your life.
Sure.
So that's amazing. Thank you so much for taking the
Yeah.
time to
I
just
loved it.
like map it all out for us. Cause I feel like so many people, they want, like you said, the desire may be there, but they just don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
What would be maybe like just one little last nugget of advice that you would give to someone who is resonating with your story, who's excited about life, but maybe comes from a smaller town, or maybe just doesn't have the support community of people thinking outside the box like us?
Mhm.
What would you say to them?
So, okay. So is the question more if someone is thinking they would like to take this route or to encourage them to do it, which,
Yeah, I think if they're interested in maybe doing more, they're
okay.
starting to get a hunger and a curiosity for exploring the world.
Okay.
But they're scared and like, I
Sure.
can't talk to anyone around me because everyone's going to look at me like I'm crazy. So
Sure.
what's your advice there?
I say that the way of the world has made this so much easier for us. And we've got this brilliant thing called social media, and you should make use of it. There is a Facebook group for everything.
Yes.
Search the country you'd like to go to, expat, Germany expats, Ireland expats, and there will be a group. And you post in there and ask the questions. And there's going to be people who were like us, who were given a little bit more directed path. There's going to be people who woke up and said, I'm doing this,
Yeah.
and can answer questions about how to make that work. Like, make use of those people out there who are already living that story and can give you the tools to help make it happen. And also who can tell you stories that is going to fuel that hunger and make the want turn into action.
Well, right. That are going to give you the sense of reality that it could
Yeah.
actually happen.
Yeah.
Because they're living it. And it's just like a coach in the coaching space. We talk about that all the time, like hire someone or work with someone who's already where you want to be, because that's the fastest way to success.
Yes.
So I think expat groups, you're right. That is such a beautiful space. We're looking to, I was telling you before, to buy a property in the south of France, and I have a lot of family there, so I have a lot of resources, but these expat groups are just filling in all the gaps that our family who already lives there, maybe they wouldn't think about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like all these wonderful things that I'm like, it's always good to double check, because these people are doing it from zero and up,
Right.
and it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's the best place to look is people who've done it.
Yeah.
So it's
Totally.
a starting point anyway. And if anything, it's bound to be filled with beautiful pictures and stories about this place that's going to make you want to be there more. So maybe it'll help you get the manifestation going, right?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. The fuel to actually taking the action you need.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you again.
Of course.
I feel like there needs to be like a part 2 of this in like 3 years and be like, where you at, girl?
Yeah. Hey, I'm here. You just let me know.
Thank you so much for listening to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I'm Christine, and if this episode resonated with you or spoke to you in any way, please feel free to share. I absolutely love hearing from you guys and your thoughts about the topics based on your experiences. And also, if there's anything you want me to talk about, just screenshot this episode and share it on social media with your comments. Your feedback really helps me to curate episodes that best serve you. If you have time, I would greatly appreciate if you could leave a review wherever you're listening to this episode, whether on Apple or Spotify or any other platform. I'm wishing you a blessed week ahead, and remember, perfection doesn't exist. Take messy action. Healthy habits keep us balanced, and you are enough.